In this recording, I'm going to introduce you to the movie poster. And I want to start, in this case, with something that I have just started to lay out and work on. I'm going to go back, though, and show you some examples of student work. This one is based on the Alamo, and she had a picture of the Alamo, a photograph they had taken, and added the sky. Did take one picture of her husband in silhouette holding a gun or toy gun or something, and then used it in part along with just some different versions of that image and repeating it and creating it as like lots of little soldiers in the image. Self-published fiction instead of pulp fiction. So you can see that how these are based upon existing movie posters. Life of Willow instead of Life of Pi. The Last Cyclist, and I know I've gone blank, but that was about the name of the original poster. And this was like a photo he had taken of himself riding on his bike, running forward, and had some of his bike friends from a photograph of bicyclists in the background behind him, charging forward. And he used some Japanese characters as part of the texture in the foreground. And Julio Perez, pictures of himself with his girlfriend and friends that he put in the different sections. He did not use any pictures of existing movie stars, that type of thing. And the dog father instead of the godfather. And that was from a picture of her own dog. I'm going to put that away and come back to my example that I've started working on. First of all, the size is 7.5 by 10.5 inches at 200 ppi. And I want you to base it on, like I said, original poster. So I'm going to turn on the comp that shows the original poster here that I still have in the background. And you can use the original poster that you use as a background layer and as a template to help you lay out your own image. And it wasn't exactly the same proportions as the proportions that are set up for this project, but I did scale it larger so it would fill the space as close as possible without distorting the shape of it. And then I started adding the elements, grouping the elements together to make the total poster. And I had David Toby, who is one of our instructors, pose as the instructor. And I used a picture of a whiteboard in the background to put here and just kind of wrote this as though that was a marker written on the board. And then I needed another vector shape, so I did a path around the statue to create a vector shape. And then I added a picture of a class from students from the back, more or less, and also added these pictures as though as part of the design element along, as though they're kind of hanging on the wall in the background. They're not, it's not in perspective, but it kind of gives you the idea. And this is how some of that artwork was actual artwork that had been on a poster, on a bulletin board. So if I turn off, you can see how this picture is grouped with a bunch of other pictures, and I just use a mask to hide each element. Same with this one and that one. And then I use different adjustment layers to help brighten them up at different points to look so they look somewhat alike in terms of brightness. And then I also added a little vector shape here for the apple. And to see what some of the path art was, I have these two images that I have on layers in the document that I use to trace paths around. And you can see the paths that I have created in my paths panel here. So this is one version, and to get enough layers in it and enough copies and versions, I did create a second version. And this one, I used to fill this area in with the green, changed it with adjustment layer. This is examples of clipping masks. And in the background here happens to be a picture of another girl's movie poster the poster and a version that was for the web, and behind his head is the version for the newsprint ad, which I'll talk about in a later video. So I hope this is enough to give you an idea about how to set it up and to meet the requirements of the project. I'm not going to demonstrate how to do each of these things. You should know now how to use masks, how to use adjustment layers, how to use the pen tool to create vectors, and add type. So this is just to give you a little introduction to get you started on the project. Thanks for joining me.